going to
Recording in progress.
Start with our briefing session. Appreciating that we've managed to join early this morning, and the team, legal team and the research team, just to take members on the brief on the issues that are emerging from all the hearings. We've interacted with the public, oral and the written submissions. Secondly, we'll then have to subject this, we've subjected the report to the minister and his legal team to comment on the submissions we have received. And then members will may raise issues in that committee meeting just for clarity, and will then end the meeting at that point. As our program has been outlined on how we're going to deal with this report, today is not to deliberate on the issues of the committee, but is to listen to the comments of the ministry and the team on the amendment bill. Then we'll then, as adopted revised program, move forward on the issues that itemize. So we requested Mr. Hlongwane and Mr. Adam Salmon, who is currently on leave, but the Mr. Hlongwane will lead. He will start now until we'll give him 15 minutes to give us a brief note, which already we have as members of parliament and legal team. Then we'll break at 10 to 9 or 5 to 9, Mr. Matons, to allow, at 10 to 9, so that we allow members, the ministry and other stakeholders who have been invited to attend this briefing. Then, that is our approach to this briefing. After Mr. Hlongwane has taken a brief, if members need to raise some of the issues, you will raise quickly. Even if it does not respond at this point, we'll then get another opportunity to respond or deliberate on that. I'm sure you may not have thorough authority on some of the legal issues that may reside with the legal team of parliament that are still coming to brief the committee. Thank you very much. I'm welcoming you, Mr. Hlongwane. You can take us into brief. Now it's 8:33. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning to all members of the committee present. I was trying to switch on my camera so that you see that I'm present, but I will request to switch it off because my network is not so good, Chairperson.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome, Mr. Hlongwane.
Okay.
We only need your voice and the presentation.
Yes. So with our discussion, Chairperson, yesterday, you requested me that briefly I take members of the committee with the key issues that has been raised in the public hearings. So what I've done, Chairperson, is that I tried to go through clause by clause on the issues that have emerged. But before I get to the clause by clause issues on what has emerged, it is important that we remind members of the committee that we had two public hearings streams, one in the inland and one in the coastal streams, Chairperson. And then the teams was divided into two. But in total, Chairperson, in the inland stream, in terms of the attendance, the people who attended the public hearings, it was 1,965 people who attended in the inland provinces, and we have received 438 submissions. And out of these 438 submissions in the inland stream, Chairperson, 267 were people or submissions who said they agree with the amendment bill, and 172 people didn't agree with the amendment bill. And then in terms of the coastal streams, Chairperson, the people who attended, it was it was 1,518, and then only 172 oral submissions were received. And out of the 172 submissions which were received, 122 oral submissions agreed with the amendment to the Electoral Amendment Bill, and only 50 submissions said they do not agree. So in total, in the 9 provinces, Chairperson, 3,483 people attended the public hearings. And out of these people who attended the public hearings, we have received 610 oral submissions. Out of the 610 submissions, and majority of the people, which is 389, supported the amendment to the electoral bill, and only 222 rejected or did not support the amendment bill. So that's in terms of the attendance and those who support and those who do not support. So now swiftly, I'm going to move briefly to the clauses, which, okay, clause by clause, and then there's some clauses which I will elaborate on what were the issues. On clause number 1, Chairperson, is the clause that deals with definitions. There were no major issues in terms of the definitions. The only key contestation here is on clause 1 on the definition is a definition in terms of what constitutes a region. So the contention here is that the region, in terms of this definition, it confuses the region in terms of the geographical boundary. So here the suggestion is that the term region should be redefined so that it speaks to the context of the Electoral Amendment Act, so that it doesn't confuse the voter with the geographical boundaries. Because at the moment, when you speak of a region, you speak of maybe Tshwane as a region or Sidibeng as a region, but it's different in this respect. But other than that, there were no major issues. On clause number 2, which amends section 27 in respect of submission of the list of candidates, there were no major issues on clause number 2, and also on clause number 3, there were no key issues. The key issues emerged on clause number 4, Chairperson. The clause number 4, part 3A, and here it deals with, it provides for the nomination of independent candidate, the requirements and qualification for independent candidate to contest elections. The major concern here was on part 3.1b, and it reads as follows: a prescribed declaration signed by an independent candidate confirming that he or she has not been a member of a political party for at least 3 months preceding the date of the nominations. So here there were 2 schools of thoughts in terms of this clause, Chairperson. The first school of thought, it is the one which supports this amendment as is here, saying that 3 months is a reasonable period as a cooling off period. But those who support this view, they also say actually 3 months should be extended to sometimes to 6 months or to 1 year. And the reason for them to say 3 months is not enough, they argue that members who lose contest within their political party structures, they then leave and then want to see themselves as independent, register themselves as independent candidate, mainly because they've lost political contestation. So this school of thought is of a view that this candidate or these people who, because they've lost political context within their own political parties, they are not genuine representatives of the people, because now they want to go and say they are independent candidate, mainly because they've lost internal political processes within the party. But the opposing view within this clause, it's saying the 3 months cooling period is fine, or should also be reduced to just 1 month. And their reason for this is that, and for the sake of this conversation, Chairperson, please allow me to use examples of the 3 biggest political parties in the country. Maybe I'll use the ANC, the EFF, and the DA. So in terms of the example here, they argue that, for example, within the ANC, if if members of the community or particular community have said Pagamile from one, they want Pagamile from one to be their representatives in the ANC, for example, and the party does not agree with that, then the party forces their own preferred candidate, which is not a preferred candidate of the members of the community. So therefore, they say Pagamile should then be allowed to leave the ANC or the DA or the AFF and then register as an independent candidate because the party which he belonged to does not want him. They force their own people, so their own person. So this is the second school of thought in terms of the cooling period, Chairperson, of the 3 months. So in conclusion, in this regard, is that the 3 months period, those who support the view, they say, yes, it is fine, the 3 months period is fine or should be increased to even 6 or 1 year because of the reasons what I've said. And those who do not support it, they say 3 months should be reduced. In the same clause, Chairperson, in terms of the allow me to. Okay, I've dealt with the cooling out period. Okay, so there's also an issue of the long ballot paper, Chairperson, that if we allow everyone to participate as an independent candidate, there's a potential that the ballot paper will be very long, will be very long. And the measures which are proposed are proposed mainly by political parties is that the IEC should set the entry boundary to be very high. And some suggest that, for example, the EFF has even put a number that at least 20,000 signatures are required for one to register as an independent candidate. Because if you do not have, and this will be a show of political support, and anything less than that will make anyone or chance takers, to use their word, to register as independent candidate, which will make the ballot paper very long. But the opposing view in this regard, they say, no, everyone should be allowed to contest elections. And the 20,000, which is proposed by the EFF and supported by other political parties, it's uncalled for. It should be a minimum requirement in terms of the signatures, which is required for one to say I'm an independent candidate. They argue that the voters are the ones which must reject the people in the ballot paper. And then they say that the IEC will introduce innovative measures to make sure that the ballot paper is not confusing to the voter, including introducing electronic voting so that you do not have a potentially very long ballot paper, Chairperson. And then on clause number 5, there were not many issues. Let's say there were no contestation, there were no issues. And in clause number 6, there were also no major issues. And also in clause number 7, there were no major issues. In clause number 8, this where there was issues. Clause number 8 provides for the return or the forfeiture of the deposit to provide for the commission to refund to an independent candidate. So this is about the non-refundable deposit fee, which is payable by independent candidate. So the first school of thought support this amendment as is. They're saying actually the deposit fee should be set higher so that there is no chance takers, so that and it should be non-refundable. This was supported mainly by all the political parties, which made, or members of the political parties which made submissions to say the deposit fee should be non-refundable and should be set very high. The opposing view in this clause, those who oppose this clause, they say the deposit fee should be set very low, considering the unemployment rate in South Africa and the economic conditions. They argue that if the deposit fee is set very high, Therefore, you are leaving the political contest to be the terrain of the elite, those who have money. And ordinary South Africans will not be able to participate in electoral processes because they will be prevented to do so because they will not afford to pay a high deposit fee. So they argue that yes, if you can have a deposit fee, but set it taking into consideration the economic conditions of the country and that it must not be exclusive of the rich. That was clause number 8. On clause number 9, Chairperson, there were no major issues, and also on clause number 10. On clause number 11, that's where the main issue was, because this clause deals mainly with how seats how votes are translated into seats in the National Assembly and in the provincial legislatures, Chairperson. And then I will limit this also to talk about the two schools of thought that emerge in terms of this clause. The first school of thought, Chairperson, supports the amendment as is, that half of the seats should be reserved for political parties, and then half of the other seats should be contested by independent candidates, including members of the political parties that can contest for the other 200 seats. And this school of thought is saying this is the best way to do it because it will allow the Electoral Act to continue with the principle of the PR system, because they believe that the proportional representative system is the best system to be inclusive of everyone in the country, because this is the system that will allow the participation of what we call minorities, so to say. It also allows for gender representation as well, because if you left it to voting, and then you remove the PR system, there's a potential that you might have a parliament where minorities are completely not represented in parliament. So this is the school of thought that support the amendment as is now. The second school of thought does not support this amendment as is now, because their view is that in the context of the current 400 seats in the National Assembly, they want the 400 seats in the National Assembly to be equally contested by everyone. So they mean that, so in their view, it means that we must, the Electoral Act must adopt a constituency-based model where each and every seat in the constituency is contested by independent candidates and the political parties' representatives equally so. Meaning that if I were to use Cape Town as a constituency, for example, Chairperson, with 4 seats, so it means all political parties and all independent candidates must equally contest for those seats. If it happens that it is representative of the political parties that win those 4 seats, so be it. If it happens that it is independent candidates that win those 4 seats, so be it. So in other words, their view is that in the 400 seats in the National Assembly, whoever wins the seats wins the seats. There shouldn't be seats reserved for political parties, because in their view, as is, this clause is biased towards the political parties, Chairperson. And then I must say that some have even threatened that should this clause be as is, it will be unconstitutional, because it won't, as is, it does not allow for equal contestation by anyone who wants to contest for those seats, because it reserves seats for political parties. And they argue that the studies has been done, they argue that the parliament should follow, they should adopt the Van Zyl-Slabbert report and the Muntate report in this regard, because they said, in their view, it is the one which will equally represent people in the National Assembly without reserving seats for political parties. Another issue that emerged on clause 11, Chairperson, it is the issue of vacancies. Of the seats of independent candidates. And here also there's two schools of thought. Mainly political parties, they argue that the seats of independent candidates should not be replaced and should only be replaced in the next cycle of election, meaning that there shouldn't be by-election to replace a seat of an independent an independent candidate in between elections. And their reasons for this is that it will make governing difficult because if there's vacancies, it means all the time there must be elections, and which will make governing difficult because political parties now have to focus on campaigning instead of governing. And then the opposing view with regard to the vacancies is that vacancies left by independent candidates should be filled immediately. So the same way political parties are allowed to fill a vacancy should one of their members resign or pass away. So in terms of it, now how it works is that the political party will just take from the political party list and replace that their candidate, the candidate who has left the seat. So they argue, those who want the vacancy of an independent candidate to be filled immediately, they argue that maybe the second person, the second independent candidate in terms of vote numbers should be the one who's now assume the responsibility of the seat, or they should be by-elections, the same way you have by-elections in local government, Chairperson. Yeah, so my presentation ends here, Chairperson. These are the key issues that they've emerged across all 9 provinces, and they are similar everywhere. So the points which I've raised here are the issues which are mainly the emerging issues, which in my view, the portfolio committee will need to deliberate more on them, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Just quick, the report took account on the written and oral submissions.
The presentation which I've done now, Chairperson, it accounts only on the oral submissions. Reason and maybe these are administrative issues. The report is done by the committee section, so I wasn't involved on the written submissions, and I didn't get chance to go through it, as you were well informed that I was informed to do this presentation yesterday. So I wouldn't have done justice on the other side. Hence, I decided to concentrate mainly on the oral submissions because that's what I've been involved in.
Oh, okay. Sorry. The oral submissions, you also include the second and the third March, or only public hearings? Public oral here, provincial public hearings.
Only provincial. So this presentation which I've done here is provincial oral public hearing.
Okay, noted. Braed, you'll admit members at 9 o'clock. No, all the stakeholders at 9 o'clock. Members, that is a report of the provincial oral submissions. I know that Adams has done with the entire report. I think it's good that you have received this draft first. We'll, as you're going to interface in a program, they will come back and also input on the some of the issues that could not be briefed. Can I get a comment? Not necessarily comment. If there are issues, I doubt at this stage members will have issues to raise until all the report have been presented by Home Affairs, legal team, content advice. But let me get Honorable Pile, Honorable Ross, Honorable Gazelle, Co-Chair, Honorable Molekwa. I'm sure that the parliamentary legal team may not want to comment at this stage, but they will advise. Quickly, we're left with 5 minutes. Pile?
Thank you very much, Chair. Let me first tender an apology on behalf of Honorable Ekwase, who's going to join us late. Chair, for me, I think it's just to note everything is clear and we're able to then proceed or move on with the process, because we are going to get the oral submissions, responses, we are going to get written submissions, and then we can then consolidate, because a lot of the things are overlapping. At this stage, Chair, I just want to appreciate it. and say that we note this report and so that we move on to the next process. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ross.
Thank you, Chairperson. I may have missed it, Chair, but my understanding is that some of the written submissions are still not included in the report. So I just want to get an understanding. I think I missed it, but how will those be included, and then when will that be? When will we deliberate on that?
Okay, Honorable Maleko.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. As Honorable Brandon, Pile, and Rios have said, we really appreciate the support and appreciate the briefing that has been presented, Chairperson. Thank you.
Honorable Lizen.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. I think the report is an accurate reflection of what we heard at the hearings. So I'm fine for now and also appreciate the brief that we got. Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you. Quickly, Matonsi, just briefly on the stages of our discussions.
Hi, Chairperson.
Yes.
You saying briefing on the stages of
the revised program quickly.
Are we not going to, Chairperson, I thought the agreement was that we are going to do the revised program after the department has briefed the committee, because that revised program, it was presented in the last meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. With the committee. So we'll do it at the end.
No, thank you. I wanted just to, I think, to respond to Honorable Ross. I think that will respond to Honorable Ross. We're going to deal with the outstanding reports that have not been briefed in this meeting, but they've been consolidated, which all members have received the detailed report. But as we are going to still have to receive a report from Parliamentary Legal Services and the content advisor, and at that time, then we'll invite, deliberate, invite the IEC, and then we'll able to further deliberate on the process. For legal team, I don't think at this stage you need to comment.
Good morning, Chairperson. Not at this stage, Chairperson.
Yes, yeah, no, that is my understanding. Okay. Thank you very much. We're now going to break for committee at 9 o'clock. Thanks, members. Thanks, Mr. Shongwani. You must get up with your team, Salmon and the team that were doing the research. The committee will invite yourselves again to deal with the entire reports as we proceed with our deliberation. We have to see how we extend time now that we're going to focus only on this matter of the electoral amendment, on the briefing by yourselves, the research team. Thanks very much for the efforts taken, and thanks very much to the legal team for continue and attending to this matter with us. This briefing session is now, we're left with 2 minutes. Mr. Matos, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.